start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, good evening. Just to let everybody know, we had an executive session held at 6 o'clock. Discuss personnel, other issues. I'd first like to say this. In light of our last meeting, I'd like to change some things. I had an opportunity to reflect on what happened during our special meeting. I had the opportunity to look at some rules and regulations from PSBA. And I had an opportunity to watch our neighbors and how they conducted their meeting. I'd like to commend Athens for how they conducted their meeting, and I'd like to do the same. So as you see, we've added a podium. If you want to address the board, you will come up to the podium. You will state your name and your address. Comments will be kept to 3 minutes, and you will be timed. At the end of 3 minutes, please sit down in your seat, and we'll continue on with the next person. Each person will have 3 minutes. We will not take any interjection from the crowd. We will not be disrupted. If at any time we are disrupted, the first time I'll ask you to stop. The second time I'll ask you to leave. And if it still continues, I will close this meeting. Moreover, please note that comments relative to private student or employee matters should be directed to the superintendent outside this meeting. At no time will we tolerate anybody bashing this district, these board members, our faculty, our staff, or our students. Students are watching. At graduation, I spoke that it is better to be kind than it is to be right, and we will continue to do so. It is not what you say, but it's how you say it. Please remember that. So with that said, I would like to recognize any resident or taxpayer wishing to address this board about title programming or any other matter concerned. Please, sir.
Is this on?
Just tap.
Doesn't matter, I'm fine. I think everybody can
Turn it on. It might be just.
Oh, this doesn't count as my 3 minutes.
No.
How's that? Is that on? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. I timed this out, I really did, so it should be close as long as I don't crack.
Name and address?
Oh, it's part of my entry.
Okay.
I've been working on this, I was here. Good evening, members of the Sayre School Board. My name is Matt Koenig, 114 Stedman Street. I'm a taxpayer in Sayre and assistant junior high coach. I'm here tonight to discuss the word agenda, which is commonly known as items to be discussed at a formal meeting, also known as a plan of things to be done or problems to be addressed. And my favorite, the underlying intentions or motives of a particular person or group. Every person in this room has an agenda or a purpose they are looking for. Many times it seems things are put on hold on the agenda that is being discussed, and it is never resolved because of other agendas or addressed. Because they don't follow through with sorry, I lost my spot. They don't follow through with the individual agenda that you have as a person. I'm sorry. I will be forthcoming with my agenda. It's my son and my daughter, 8th grade and 4th grade. And my kids. That's every kid I have ever coached at Sayre or anywhere else for that matter. The agenda of the school co-op for the fall sports was shot down months ago. And that put us in a situation now where we failed to look into that agenda has created a domino effect with all varsity and JV programs. Which is why I'm here, for my kids, the kids that I've coached, the 7th and 8th graders, looking forward. So you don't just blow off ideas for student athletes by simply looking at numbers. Clearly that's not working. Perhaps, as I stated to people at work, you need to get boots on the ground. There was a recent athletic committee meeting, days after you made a last-ditch effort to co-op with Athens, which, if you understand how a co-op works, is just to save face. I would have expected to see many of you at that meeting. Thank you to the board members that did attend that meeting. It's a great spot to get information from coaches on what's going on in their programs and to gather other ideas and information. And perhaps help the agenda we're working towards and get it done in a timely manner. There's been a lot of discussion about seniors leaving and kids and families leaving the district. Also about education and opportunities for kids at other schools versus Sayre. Bottom line, the other week, you didn't have 150 people here because they don't show up at board meetings after the paper says test scores are up 5% or down 5%. But when you mess something up like athletics, people swarm with all types of agendas. You're hearing more agendas now than you've heard before. So clearly, as they say, the fish are biting over here in the extracurricular and athletic activities department. In closing, I would like to say this. It's going to be a very busy year to get these agendas addressed and to stop the bleeding, because you now have every parent in Athens setting an agenda based on what happens in these next few months or years. Once their children get out of a well-organized and run school like Snyder, thank you, Mrs. Morell and your staff. I hope for the sake of your students.
Time's up, sir.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to give this to the secretary.
Yes, please.
Well, I appreciate the fact you're running this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Mike, we have 3 minutes.
First, I think it's wrong to cut off people.
Name and address, sir.
Sean Flynn, I live in Sayre.
Thank
Good
you.
enough. It's wrong to cut off people, taxpayers, when we voted you guys in. You know, enough said there. Who is the safety person for the school district? Anybody want to raise their hand? No? You? Why is on the agenda Dr. Jill Delosio is attending the school safety conference in Hershey when you're the safety person? Wrong. Wrong. I'm very disappointed that this last week there was a town hall meeting. 2 board members were there. 2. Athens was well represented. Disgusting.
Thank you, Mr. Flynn.
I'm not done. My 3 minutes is not up. You want to cut me off? Fine. I have not said anything derogatory. Have I? No, I have not.
You're on the verge.
No, I'm not on the verge, Mr. Petrini. And you wonder why you're not the magistrate.
Continue.
Dr. Delosio should not be going to this conference. Mr. Strange was cut off at the meeting. Mr. Strange is why this building was in running condition. And it's gone downhill since. Athletics, I don't know what to tell you. It comes down to leadership, like Mr. Polinsky said, her and him. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Carla Green, and I reside at 806 North Elmer Avenue. I've been a taxpayer here for 20 years. I have 3 student athletes now in the junior and senior high school. Mine's way over 3 minutes, so I'm gonna kind of jump around a little bit, bear with me. I'd like to commend our basketball and our baseball programs and the coaches and their staff that come and they attend games and they attend practices and the kids see them. This is what helps build these programs. I do have a few action items at the end. Part of what makes our baseball program so strong is the coach showing up. It is very frequently seen that we will have kids and players attending Little League games. They come to opening day, they come lean on the fence, they umpire. They're there and they're showing the kids what happens as you get older. I would like to suggest that perhaps we need to do the same with our other feeder programs. For our football program, we have a strong feeder program with the Junior Redskins, but we don't see a lot of involvement of the older kids or the coaches. 2 years ago, the Little League did the work to add softball, with much of that decision made to be able to help provide a feeder program for Sayre softball. This was not without effort or bumps in the road, of course, but the league persevered with the importance of offering the program for the kids and to help the school. I do suggest that the varsity football coaching staff become more involved in some capacity to increase presence at the Junior Redskins events as well as the junior high events in order to keep athletics inspired. I also urge the other coaches to continue doing what you're doing in being present for younger generations coming up. Don't lose steam in the Little League in the growing basketball program. We saw good attendance there, and Coach Ward was highly recommended and well loved by all the younger kids coming up. Some areas where we truly need to improve. Sayre School would benefit from a full-time athletic director now. As I sat in the initial parent meeting regarding football this year, it was quite clear that some parties felt the problem was made clear early on, and the athletic director stated that 9th and 10th graders played varsity. Indeed, they were on the varsity roster. They had little to no playing time or game experience, and you cannot graduate approximately 12 seniors and automatically give their playing time to kids that stood on the sidelines and were not given game experience. The then 9th and 10th graders were significantly impacted by COVID years and lack of a JV season. This was, in my opinion, a failure on the athletic directing and the coach, with no push to have increased playing time and knowing what the upcoming situation and needs would be. So the 11 action items, I'll be quick here. Act now to get a full-time athletic director in place and show that the athletes, parents, and community need to see action in this area to know there is commitment to fix the problem. This can directly impact sports as well as the extracurriculars surrounding sports and enhance overall morale and engagement. 2, plan now to ensure that the JV football season involves band, cheer, pep rallies, and increased engagement of all the students.
Ms. Green, your time's up. Sorry.
All right, I'll give you 3 through 11. I don't want to come with a problem with no suggestions or solutions.
And I appreciate that very much. Thank you so much for coming with some suggestions. Appreciate that. Anyone else?
Yeah, hi, Joel Hunt, 17 Walker Street. I'm just gonna kind of piggyback off her comments and, you know, having kids in 4th and 6th grade, I think it makes sense for the school district to consider combining that rec director and the athletic director position into one full-time, you know, well-paid position. So there's a person caring from K to 12, one person, 1 point, and I think that would help, you know, the athletic situation. At least it's something to try. But that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Anyone else?
My name is Sherry Gebauer, and I live at 114 Ellistown Road in Milltown. I've paid taxes in Athens and Sayre. My kids went to Athens from kindergarten to close to $400,000. What about combining the schools and paying only one superintendent? Then also I look at, going a step even farther, maybe we should even be talking about combining our municipalities. And we've gone from 1900s to now with, increase when the railroad, Ingersoll Rand were popular. Now, we have the same population, both towns, as we did in the early 1900s. Just some thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anyone else?
If I can get
Caitlin Blyther, I reside at 813 North Elmham. I know it was brought up at the last board meeting about us parents whose children are in the co-op with Athens Soccer, getting some information about the transportation that is being provided. School starts next week, practices are after school for varsity JV kids, still haven't heard anything from anyone. Is it, like they're gonna be something sent out to us? I did talk to the Athens coach, he said that he didn't know anything about it, it was on Sarah's end that I had to get that information, so hopefully we can get some information out to us co-op parents here, so we can get details before school starts.
So Mrs. Blyer, I know that Mr. Claypool had reached out to the Navy there and they're working through that process.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
After the last meeting, we had that conversation the next day.
Okay, thanks.
Joe, can you put a date on when we'll communicate to the parent?
Meeting tomorrow after the AD meeting.
He has an AD meeting scheduled tomorrow, so it should
Okay.
shortly thereafter.
So by Thursday, Friday?
I think Thursday's easily doable.
Okay, by Thursday.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Real quick, I didn't realize that it was 3 minutes, and I don't have anything right now, so it's gonna be a little jumbled. My name is Mariah Farrell, I live at 526 Lincoln Street in Sayre. I work for an architectural and engineering firm, and our specialty is K through 12. A lot of our clients are New York clients, and doing a little research before I came, I do realize that the state of Pennsylvania, since the 60s, there's only been one school merger that was successful, that was voted on by the community. They actually wanted it. After a quick Google search, I actually realized that there is a Pennsylvania School District Merger Procedural Overview available that's out there. And it takes some time, estimated about 4 years. So my suggestion to everyone is, instead of just fixing these spots that come up here and there, we have no athletics, we are in a crisis with this, we're in a crisis with that, our numbers aren't gonna get better. I mean, we don't have a ton of people coming to this area. Our educational programs are lacking compared to Athens, and we have more people as a population than Athens. I think that we need to start this process now. I mean, you know, just with the last hurry up and wait minute with Athens last time, I mean, it was a complete, pardon the language, but I mean, let's not do that over and over and over again. Let's be proactive and start this process now, whether it's just, you know, you can send out mailers to the community. What's your opinion? Do you have kids in Sayre or Athens? Would you be interested? Here's a couple of the points. just want to close with, before I came here, I wanted to look up, so everyone says, you know, the rivalry. How can we merge these two schools with the years of rivalry, in which I don't think even exists anymore, like maybe 20 years ago they did. I don't really think they do now. But the definition of a community, which I think doesn't end with Sayre School District or Athens School District, I think we are the Valley, and that includes Waverly, but they're in another state, so we can't really, you know. But a community, the definition of a community is a feeling of fellowship with others as a result of sharing common attitudes, interests, and goals. And I think everyone here, their goal and interest should be the kids. The best that we can do for them, whether that's competition in a bigger school district to perform better as athletes, or better opportunities for education, you know, extracurricular activities, art, everything. They deserve it all.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Hey, good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board, fellow community members. My name is Tim Strickland. I live on Sunset Street over in Milltown. I spoke the other night first at the town hall and kind of let everyone know a bit about myself. So I've only lived in Sayre for 2 years now. I was born and raised in Southwest Florida. And this is a problem the problem that we have in our community right now is something that's new to me, right? I'm not used to this. Where I come from, the population is growing so much, we have to build new schools just to have kids places to go. And it's really sad to see that Sayre and Athens is kind of facing the shrinking population of schools where we're running into these issues. One of the examples I gave where I came from in Florida when I went to high school is we actually had a program called Food Production and Services, which was like the culinary arts class, obviously. And we partnered with Johnson & Wales University, where if the kids completed 2 years of this class, they would get a full ride scholarship to Johnson & Wales University. Not books covered, but the education anyway. One of the cool things was part of completing this class is you had to intern in the cafeteria at the school. So the kids had to help cook lunches, prepare and clean up, which got you free labor, but also the kids were proud to be able to say to their fellow students, did you like lunch today? Because I helped with that, you know? It was kind of a win-win scenario. I bring that up to talk to this, right? Proposing a couple of questions that I would love to hear answers to. You know, who's in charge of, and I'm really asking because I don't know. So who's in charge of trying to grow our schools education programs and look into things like that, you know, program I was talking about? You know, how do we raise the bar on our kids' education and grow it? And then obviously athletics is extremely important to education because a lot of the kids want to do well so that they can play the sports, and that's really important too. So, you know, we need to get all our coaches on the same page, you know, trying to push the kids to do well in school. We also need better communication from the school to the coaches. As I was the junior high coach for the soccer team last year, and I have to reach out to find out if I am coaching this year, which it turns out I'm not, but I still wasn't given an answer to my email I asked. And, you know, when we co-op the kids, do we, you know, co-op coaches over there too, or do our kids go over there and our coaches are left wondering what's going on? And then probably the last piece of that, you know, I'll say is, you know, we shoot out a lot of things on Facebook, and Facebook isn't really a professional means of communication. I would like to see a more professional means of communication, and maybe some better tools, like with our online programs. If our kids are supposed to have an online day, and they sign into class late, we don't find out they were late until after 5 p.m., and I think that's kind of a shame. So that's really all I have. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, sir.
Mr. Strickland.
Mr. Strickland?
Let me make mention that one of the things that we do have here in the Sayre Area School District is an opportunity for our children to go down to the Northern Tier Career Center. And down there they can learn culinary skills, HVAC skills, mechanical skills, etc. down there. And right now we've got 42 students down there right at the moment. And the census is growing down there. I just wanted to let you know that.
No, that's great. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself too, if it's okay, if I'm all right running a little more time. So I also work for the Williams Auto Group. Well, I just,
I
I'll talk to
appreciate it
you.
so much.
okay.
Anyone else?
My name is Tabitha Forbes. I live at 214 Olive Street in Sayre. Just kind of piggybacking off of the last two people that have come up to speak, what I would like to see from the board is an actual intention. I'd like to know, is our intention to look into merging with Athens in the future? If so, then I think that we need to start taking steps to work towards that goal. If our intention is to rebuild the Sayre School District so that it is not necessary to merge with a different school district, then I think we need to take steps towards that goal. But I think that the intention, one way or the other, needs to be set and needs to be clear in order for those plans and goals to be set going forward. And I think that right now we're kind of languishing, and everyone is really confused about what the direction is gonna be because there are a lot of unknowns. 7th and 8th graders this year, for example, have 2 maths and 2 Englishes, and there's a lack of electives there. And so it's always these little things every year that seem to be going downhill, and we don't seem to be progressing. So I would like to see a clear intention, and then goals set towards that intention going forward.
Points like that, what do we want our process to be? Candidly, I don't know the details, so a comment made specifically on our math program, 7th and 8th. We should address that, or at least give
Mrs. Ely
information.
can address that, or she
What's
can,
that?
Mrs. Ely will be able to address that. I think she was preparing actual message for her 7th and 8th grade families, and so she could address that tonight as
Okay,
well.
I just think it's important to not, we gotta figure out what the right approach to that is, but I don't think we should leave comments open like that, because that doesn't help the public really understand.
There are some comments made tonight, as you know, that we are going to
Yes,
address, right?
okay.
So,
But absolutely, and I think maybe what we should just say, as part of our discussion and tonight, many of these questions are gonna be answered, whatnot, so so it's not left open, that's all.
So Mr. Swervon, Mrs. Ely and I spoke on, probably just a couple days ago when she had returned from vacation, that information needs to go out to the 7th and 8th grade families as to what that means, what activity looks like on their schedule, so that moms and dads of 7th and 8th graders would know that information.
anyone else?
Hi, my name's Michael Thomas. I live at 116 West Street in Sayre. I just got a couple comments. One is on consolidation. I was the mayor of Sayre for 12 years. I was also on the council for 12 years. Danny's right when it comes to we're landlocked. Sayre's landlocked. And you can't have the same amount of sports as Athens does when you graduate 63 kids. It just isn't gonna happen. And as far as consolidation, they put Elmira Free Academy and Southside together. They put Corning East, Corning West together. They put down in Pennsylvania, Myers, GAR, and Kaufman. That's all in Wilkes-Barre. They put all of them together. And I just can't figure out a mile and a half, we can't do it. People say, well, the kids don't get along. Well, maybe back in my day, they didn't get along. And that was back in the 70s. But now they play AAU sports. They play all sorts of sports together, and they all get along. As far as the football program goes, I grew up with tradition. And Donnie knows because I played with his brother, Joe. I played with tradition. Tradition's out of here. There's no tradition in my book. And as far as the athletic director, what the gentleman that made the comment about the athletic director, I was the athletic director at Athens for 3.5 years. It's more of a job than you think. Barry's finding that out. And, $14,000 a year before taxes. Do you know how much time is in with an athletic director? You ought to follow a full-time athletic director around just 1 year. Follow him around 1 year. Meetings, making sure the fields are ready. You know, equipment, I mean, all that stuff. There's a lot to being an athletic director. But for $14,000, you know, it just doesn't cut it. But I really believe, and even though I was the athletic director at Athens, I graduated from the school, I still bleed red and blue to this day. But I coached here, I coached football here back in the 80s. What I'm saying is that I just think that we need to really start looking at consolidation. I just gave you 3 examples. And I gotta believe it, I don't know this for a fact. I gotta believe that we start the consolidation process, Guthrie will get involved with funds. I know for a fact they will get involved with it, because I've talked to certain people over there, I'm a trustee there. We've talked, and I'm sure they would get involved if we did it. And one last question. With winter sports coming up, how are your numbers? You know, have you looked at that? Or, okay, so you've looked at it. Now the PIAA, here again, I'm lost on this one.
Mr. Thomas, your time is up.
Okay, but I mean, you just need to check that. Was that all in May to do co-op with all sport?
If I could respond, at the athletic committee report tonight, they're going to go over the numbers specific tonight that they had from the athletic meeting last week.
Okay, so.
That'll be shared publicly tonight.
Okay, did you have to do that with with winter sports? Is there a deadline for winter sports?
Yes, Mr. Claypool will be going over that and the committee members that were there.
There is, okay. Thank you.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
Anyone else?
No. Okay.
I'm not here to criticize, I'm just here to bring up a few issues I've heard. Maybe something you haven't even thought
State your
about.
name and.
Oh, John Strange, Sarah taxpayer, 311 Lincoln Street.
Thanks.
Okay, I'd like to mention to you, maybe you forgot about it, the bench at Litchfield School, I understand it's been sold. I don't know if it's true, but the bench is Mr. Unuzi's bench. It should be moved and moved to Snyder School. Probably haven't thought about it. One thing I want you to think about, and I know you're all, I've been to a lot of safety meetings before, you put the security systems in. Rethink your thought process on deadbolts. I don't know why you want to deadbolt the doors. Classroom doors are deadbolted. Now, I know how they work here, because I was walking down the hall, I saw me, this guy said, what's the deadbolts for? Says they were against it, but I'm not faulting anybody. Rethink your deadbolt situation. It's the crossbar. My niece goes to Athens, she says, yes, they have deadbolts, and just kind you think about, there's a hole in the floor, and you push down. So one of them's good, one of them's bad, but it's up to you to figure out which one. On consolidation. The other night at the community meeting, I'm against consolidation, and I'll tell you just how I think about it. We got a great school. What's wrong with this building? Nothing. And I'm gonna ask Mr. Berry, how far in debt are we in Sayre School District? One time we was way in debt. Do you happen to know what the debt is for Sayre?
Bond debt?
No, just overall debt. You're the man.
We have a positive fund balance at this point.
Positive fund balance. Okay. Here's the reason I'm against consolidation. We're taxed, we pay the bills, we pay our teachers, and like I said the other night, we also maintain the buildings and even updated in many cases. You just put an update on your fire alarm system. You updated since I left the elevator. Why would you want to give away this building? The kids are going to go to Athens. Your taxes are going to go to Athens. If you take 9th through 12th out of this school, your taxes still go to Athens. What's going to happen to this school? Now you not enough money to keep going. 9 to 12 is a lot, well, not too many for Sayre, but it still adds up to a lot of money over time. So that's what I'm against. And would our taxes go to, would a complete tax base go to Athens if there was consolidation? What have you gained? Okay, that's all I got. Need these comments?
Thank you, Mr. Strange. No, I mean, it's up to you.
He can determine it all, and that helps the secretary.
Keeps this check from getting wires straight. Thanks. Anyone else? I had one gentleman reach out to me.
Hey, yeah, according to my calculation, I'd still have some time.
No, you're.
No, actually I do.
No, you're done.
No, I do.
Mr. Flynn.
No,
you're
I
done.
do.
And that was part of what was
Mr.
brought
Flynn,
up.
stop.
Mr. Katrini,
Mr.
I
Flynn,
still,
stop. If you continue, I'm gonna ask you to leave.
ask me, I'm gonna leave after this anyways, but.
If you continue, I'm gonna end this meeting, and the rest of these folks don't want me to end this meeting. Your 3 minutes is up.
Okay, and that's sad, because
Mr. Flynn.
these people
Mr.
voted
Flynn.
you in,
And
voted
I want
you
them
all
to
in.
have an opportunity to hear what we have to say tonight, so don't ruin it for them. Have a seat.
Good night.
Have a good night.
Good luck next election.
Have a good night. So I had a gentleman reach out to me by the name of Dave Fortune. And he's a community resident, and being not a Sarah resident, he can't speak at this meeting, so I told him I would speak on his behalf. The reason why I'm speaking on his behalf is because he was a gentleman that came to me with a solution. It might not be the perfect solution, it might not be the right solution, but he came to me with a solution. He was talking about sports, and he'd like to adopt an intramural program made up of 4 to 6 teams with 8 players each. 2 teams that'll play on Saturday at the stadium. First would be at 1 o'clock and the second could be at 3. This opens up the opportunity to liven things up with cheerleaders that can play at both games. And it would give opportunity for the marching band to play at both games. And for those who got hungry, there would be a snack bar and possibly a raffle. And he almost forgot one thing, homecoming. If we had an intramural team that was something we did here in the Lockhart Street Bowl, we wouldn't have to worry about homecoming. He believes the alternative is to do nothing. But this was his suggestion. So with that, I'd like to thank Mr. Fortune for reaching out to the board and giving his opinion to a solution of something we can do. Thank you, sir. Anyone else have comment? All right, so we'll move forward with the regular meeting. I'd like to recommend a consent agenda on section 1, the minutes. Section 2, operations, including instruction. The attestation agreement between the community and school-based behavioral health program to occur here at SARE. Volunteers. The approval of coaches. And finance, transfers, the treasurer's report, tax report. Personnel, including professional employment, professional mentorship, and advisors. The approval of paraprofessionals, and the bills. That's a recommendation. Can I get a motion? Motion. So a motion, do I have a second? Motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
No, I'm sorry, any discussion?
Go ahead, you have
No, go ahead, John.
discussion. On the advisors, do you feel like we have good, strong participation from faculty?
there any more discussion?
Yeah, so I would, with your pleasure. Okay, so I would like to introduce a few people. So behind the board here, Rebecca Cross is going to be our new secondary English teacher. Rebecca, welcome to the Sayre family. Thank you. I would also like to acknowledge Chriselle. There she is. I was looking for the crowd. Chriselle Hayes will be teaching at first grade at the elementary school, and one of your counterparts is right next to you there, Mrs. Skirpo, and I'm sure that she introduced herself to you. Yes. And then on the page after that, we have two paraprofessionals that were able to attend this evening. So Tina Anthony is in the back. If you would wave the board, so welcome, Tina. And I believe next to her is Peggy Perry. Thank you, Peggy, so welcome to the team as well. The other individuals were invited on, and I was looking around, I didn't see, right. So those were those that were able to attend this evening on a last minute request. And I'm very happy to say that all the professional staff positions that were open have been filled for the upcoming school year.
Very nice.
Thank you, sir. Congratulations.
Folks, thank you very much for being here tonight. So any further discussion?
No, we do not.
So, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I have to abstain on the coach.
And that
And
is,
who is?
Mr. Hayden, Charlie Hayden.
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gold. Motion carries. Welcome aboard, guys. Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. So with that, we'll move on to the board discussion part of our agenda. And we first like to talk about the athletic co-op, sports, and timeline. Mr. Shaw, do you want to jump in with that? Please, sir.
I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, we're gonna be receiving a request from Athens to co-op all sports beginning 24-25.
My volume's up a little way. Mr. Shaw, is your volume up a little way?
Yes, can you hear me?
It's just very faint for our audience members. Okay, go ahead.
We'll be,
Is that better?
can you hear me, Mr. Katrina?
I can hear you, yes. You guys hear him okay? Not really, it's tough with the blower going on in the background, but go ahead.
We'll be receiving a request from Athens, my understanding, to co-op all sports beginning 24-25 season. Correct?
Yes, that's what we were told. It's a potential request from the Athens School Board for co-op of all sports for the 24-25 season.
Additionally, we will not be requesting a co-op with Athens for wrestling for this year. But they had to be notified by today's date, and I believe Mr. Claypool notified them that we will not be requesting a co-op for wrestling due to that it would bump Athens up in the classification.
So just so everybody can hear, we're not going to ask for a co-op for wrestling with Athens. As Athens stated, it would bump them up a class, and they do not wish to do that.
Correct.
Okay.
We had our athletics meeting last Monday night. We requested it 10 days ago to possibly do a co-op with Athens for football, and then last Tuesday, Athens voted not to do that. So I'm pretty sure everyone's already aware of that. We have 24 junior high football players, I believe. Mr. Claypool would have more accurate numbers, somewhere in that vicinity. We have, according to Coach Gorman, for the JV program that we're going to have, JV only, we have 19 players currently with no seniors. For the rest of the fall sports, we've met or exceeded the minimum number for cross country, volleyball, cheer, golf, soccer. I believe we have 6 girls, 2 boys participating in Athens, and we have 10 junior high, which is co-ed at Athens for soccer. Again, Mr. Claypool made the notification to them today about the fall sports. For winter sports, we're beating the minimum numbers for girls basketball, boys basketball, but wrestling we are not. And spring sports, we have good numbers in baseball, softball, and we're borderline on track. And we will have to notify Athens if we want to co-op by November 15th for any of the spring sports.
Did you guys hear that okay, or did that all get lost? Okay. All right. Is that it, Mr. Shaw?
The only other thing that it's been mentioned earlier, I believe, we're working on finding a solution to transport our junior high kids to Athens for soccer practice.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Shaw. Does anybody have anything they'd like to add about athletics?
As I was on vacation for the meetings last week, I just wanted to make some comments about the recent events with athletics. There's been a lot of discussion about the minimum numbers for sports at SARE, as Mr. Shaw just related. All sports, with the exception of wrestling and track, have met the self-designated minimum participation numbers, which were developed by coaches and administration, as presented and discussed at numerous athletic committee meetings over the past several years. These numbers include the removal of most, if not all, people who have transferred to other schools over the past month. Our intention is to move forward with all sports that have met the minimum number requirements here at SARE. I personally would also recommend that any sport that's under a minimum participation number that has been impacted by transfers, that we still allow that sport to happen. I don't feel it would be fair to impact the student athletes that remain dedicated to our district because others decided to leave. I want to thank all the parents and student athletes that are choosing to stay and participate at SARE, and will continue to work to improve numbers throughout the upcoming seasons. For all of you who signed up for a sport, fall seasons have started. Get your paperwork in and done and get to practice. We need you in the gyms and on the fields. If you've been debating signing up, the window for fall is starting to close, so make a decision quick and get registered in Family ID. Let's talk about football specifically, and this has been reported before, but our designated number was 25. If the people who transferred hadn't, we'd be at 30 students out for the football program. The current number is 26. I guess, Coach Gorman reported 19 to Mr. Shaw today. The number participating wasn't the issue. The issue was that some of the coaches felt that it was unsafe to have freshmen and sophomores who weren't developed playing against juniors and seniors. Because of the safety concern, coaches, administratively, we felt we had to cancel our varsity season to play a JV schedule. Had everyone stayed with the program, we would have had 15 juniors and seniors. There were 10 seniors, 5 juniors. One of the seniors was new this year. Last week, I started to think about how many other junior and seniors were at other schools that were similar to our size. So I went on the PIAA website for classifications, found that there were 22 schools that have between 110 and 120 male students in grades 9 to 11. That's where you get the classification numbers from. We have 115. So then I cross-referenced with Max Prep's rosters from 2021, since everybody's just starting 22 season now. And of those 22 schools, found anywhere from 5 to 27 juniors and seniors rostered. 12 of the schools, including us, had 15 or less juniors and seniors rostered, while 10 had more. 2 of the 10 schools had 16 kids rostered, so 1 more than us. So it looks like all the schools that had our numbers appeared to play a varsity schedule last year. So it looks to me like the numbers of juniors and seniors here are similar to other schools our size, so that drops the issue down to the development of our younger players. I understand that we lost a junior high season in 2020, which was the first year coming out with COVID restriction and all those things after a couple of weeks due to low participation numbers. We didn't field a JV team last year, which further hindered development. We also did not do any football, like lifting programs from the end of last season through the year. Spring football practices are 7-on-7s from the end of last season until July when we started to do some Sunday practices. So we didn't really get our younger students developed. Moving forward, we'll ensure that we implement these types of items in our football program and other sports programs to give our student athletes the best chance for success. There was also talk of if the co-op was discussed with Athens earlier, that would have resolved the football issue. That is simply not true unless the discussion would have been finalized prior to October 1st of 2021, or Athens, which would have been willing to give up playoffs for the next 2 seasons, which frankly I wouldn't expect any school to do. And when we were talking back with Northeast about their co-oping with them for soccer, that's what ultimately, we both schools said we don't want that to happen at that point. My understanding is at a meeting in late March, the Athens board and the administrative reps there told Sarah board and admin reps that they did not want to consider any co-ops, which they would move up a classification. That's been discussed earlier today. PIAA bylaws state that requests for approval of cooperative sponsorship of sportsman agreements, which would affect the classification size of a team, must be approved by the applicable PIAA district committee and submitted to the PIAA board of directors by October 1st of any odd number year to be considered for approval for the immediately following 2-year reclassification cycle. It does state they will consider agreements which would affect the classification size of a team during a cycle if the team's sports for the schools agree to forego participation in any postseason competition. There's a couple other factors involved with that as well. So the only way that playoffs would have happened with a co-op would have been to request a co-op prior to last October 1st. A board member had mentioned that there was also the possibility of co-oping with schools that aren't in our boundaries, right? The bylaws discuss co-oping only with schools that are on your boundary. I did check into that. They do allow you to co-op with schools that don't hit your boundaries as long as the schools that do hit your boundaries say they don't want to do a co-op. I looked, and in football, every school that we could have co-opted with in our area still would have bumped a class, so it would have been the same issue, which would have been no playoffs for any co-op, had we reached out to any other school. So that doesn't necessarily, because the numbers are different in each sport, that doesn't necessarily mean for each sport, but for football, that's what it meant. All of that doesn't make it okay for our seniors to not have a varsity season. And for those 9 who played football for years, that's who really I feel badly for here, that those are the kids that get hurt, their families. Wish there could have been another option, but the only chance they had for this year was for Sarah to play a varsity schedule. Finally, I do want to just mention some of the positive stuff occurring in our athletic program. I'd like to thank the coaches who gave their time to open up the weight room to allow our student athletes the opportunity to work out over the summer. The turnout was okay. Some days were better than others, but hoping that we'll be able to continue that throughout the upcoming seasons and years. Additionally, there's a lot of coaches that have been putting in a lot of time and effort to develop and continue to develop programs, and to you, I thank you. Coach Van Duzer, who's been running summer baseball and developing that program for years, as we heard comments earlier. Coach Shaw, who's been running basketball programs and leagues throughout the summer. That's what it takes to build programs, and we appreciate your hard work. New coaches, Coach Barbagallo, who's the new volleyball coach, Coach Falver, who's our girls basketball coach, and Coach Stack, who just took over the competitive cheer. They've put in countless hours since they've been hired to establish or reestablish programs, working with the younger kids as well as the varsity level students to develop programs. Keep up the great work, appreciate it, and thank you. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Claypool. Anyone else have anything for discussion about athletics?
Barry and Jim, I think I think we should, give a lot of thought to what kinds of metrics do we want to look at to really understand our athletic programs, and are we getting what we want to get from our athletic programs? For example, percent participation. If we look at our boy and girl population in total, what percentage of those are participating in athletics, and how does that compare to other districts? And do we need programs to really identify and grow that interest in order to continue to move forward? So there are a number of things. I mean, I want to talk about the lack of participation without really understanding the underlying reason for it. So that, because without understanding, we're not going to be able to drive it.
Thank you, Mr. Scripon.
I just wondered if there was any other comments for the potential of a 24-25 co-op for all sports. That has not been voted on. We do know if it is voted on, we'll receive a request and our board will respond. So is there any other discussion about that?
Well, I think one thing our athletic committee needs to do is, I mean, they have an athletics and recreation meeting set for 6:30 on the 10th. I think they ought to move that up, do the best they can to move that up, so they can discuss some of those data points and bring it back to the board so we can make an informed decision. So I don't know, Mr. Shaw, do you have, can you squeeze in another athletic meeting before our board meeting on, don't have the calendar in front of me. The 6th?
Yes, sir.
The day after Labor Day, the 6th. Do you think you can get an athletic meeting in before September 6th?
Let me check here real quick.
No, I can push it on the calendar.
Yeah, we can pick a date.
No, do you have one in mind? We'll get it set right now and then we'll put it on the calendar, and Dr. Delosio said she'd push it out to everybody. Do you want to do the 29th?
We have nothing in the district that evening, so it's open.
29th would work.
What time, Mr. Shaw?
What time would you like, Mr. Shaw? 6:30?
We'll just go for 6:30, yeah.
Okay, so our Athletics and Recreation Committee meeting will be pushed up to the 29th of August at 6:30 here in the high school library.
I would just like to add that those committee meetings are open to the public, and they are on our website, on our calendar.
Thank you very much, guys. Appreciate that. All right. COVID-19?
So there's been some new information come from CDC and the guidelines and recommendation, and we want to share that students that are identified as a positive case will be excluded for the 5 days of a quarantine from the start of symptoms, and if they're asymptomatic, it will be 5 days from the date of their test. They are permitted to return on day 6 if asymptomatic with no fever for 24 hours and without the use of fever-reducing medications. You may return with a mask for 5 days and continue to monitor for symptoms as well. Close contacts are different this year. We'll be sending out notifications. So for example, Mrs. Morel might send out a notification to a specific grade level and or classroom that says there's been a student identified in your classroom, but we will not be excluding close contacts this year in accordance with the CDC guidelines. So the safety, health and safety plan will be updated and brought to the board for final approval at our September 6th meeting. So this information came in late. We had received information in July. We updated all of our documents, and probably about 48 hours to 72 hours later, we received new guidelines. So we washed that and we started over. So we, as of today, This is the information we have, but that does not mean the CDC or the Department of Health won't change those requirements or recommendations that come our way, and we will update that information as it comes out. So this came off the press of the communication specialist today. I will review that and we'll post it on our website and send it out to families so that they can see that and follow the flow chart that we had. So we've updated all that information.
Perfect. Does anybody have any questions or comments about the COVID-19 plan?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So one other thing I want to bring up for board discussion, a few board meetings ago, the board asked Dr. Delosio and I to meet with Mr. Stage and John Chersnowski for Athens about talks of a consolidation. As you may be aware, Athens received 4 proposals. 2 of those proposals are just specific for Athens and building improvement projects. 2 of those proposals also include a section for a full study of both districts. At the next Athens board meeting, they are potentially planning to formally request that Sayre Area School District participate in part 2 of their RFP for that study and pay for at least half of that study. So not their whole entire study, because their RFP was in 2 parts. So just the part that includes consolidation talks with Sayre. Athens is looking at hosting presentations from both of those companies that proposed RFPs, and they want Sayre School Board to be fully involved in that process. There's a lot of things we need to discuss. It is not simply merging football teams, co-oping all the sports. As some of the people here tonight said, it's about community, it's about the education of our children, it's about what we can do right by them. I'm anticipating that Athens will move forward with that and formally request us. And I would ask this board personally that we would seriously look at that. I think we would do this community a disservice if we don't look at an educated answer to the questions that everybody's asking. So that's what came out of that meeting. If you know what, we'll wait for Athens and see what they do.
Can I share a few other points as well?
But yeah, please.
Sure. So in addition to those things that Pete had shared when we were meeting with the Mr. Chersnowski and Mr. Stage, we also discussed the importance of having the facts through the study and pulling that together so that our communities and our stakeholders would know what the benefits and the opportunities would be for the student body. What would the voting regions look like? What are the current operating budgets? What's the debt service? What are the finances? What's the differential in the taxpayers? So we want to pull all that information together from the companies and share it out publicly and hear a voice from our stakeholders in the entire community of Athens and Sayre. We talked about the one merger that I believe one of the gentlemen had spoke about. So if you want to look into that information, Pennsbury and Morrisville School District did this several years ago just after 2010. It was a 3 to 6 year process that they worked through in order to create a new school district. So just so that you know, some of the things that we talked about too is next steps. So openly discussing it at every board meeting as we acquire new information. If a formal request comes our way, to respond to that in a timely manner, to make that open to the Sayre community and the Athens community, and respond in a timely manner. So I did say that information. I just wanted to go over, we met last Thursday, and we wanted to share that information publicly with our community.
I think one thing that's important too is that even from, our counterparts in Athens, they understand that this isn't a 20-person decision. This is a community decision. It's not just about these two boards. It's about the whole entire community, and they want, just like we want, an educated decision. That's all I have from that meeting.
Okay, as well.
Anybody else have any other questions?
I have a question. James Harder, Litchfield Road. I have a question in regards to what you were just talking about. So with the information that you obtain, is that something that you'd be able to present to the community and let them make an informed decision, or at least weigh your decision on that?
The information from
when Athens formally
Talks.
requests that?
Absolutely. That's what
Okay.
Dr. Delosio just said.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
we would make sure that happens.
If I could follow up, the results of an RFP process, when the companies that are hired to complete the process, they will share a report and that will become a public document. So earlier this year, we did a feasibility study on our buildings, and that information is available to the public. We had a presentation that was open, but also all the documentation is available for parents to look at as well. Community members. Thanks.
There's no other questions from the board?
Good time, I think it's great. Looking forward to Athens, formally making that request.
Like Commissioner Boyle. Anyone else?
I just think it's important that, again, the public know this as well, and that is that the school boards are here to make sure that the districts are run properly. We don't run the schools, it's our administrators that run the school. We just make sure that we are making sure that everything is run according to the standards. Correct. I think that's the best.
Policies and procedures.
Correct, yes. Thank you, Pete.
So Ron, to tag on to that though, I think there's gonna be, we're gonna be making a lot more requests relative to the administration publicly, about bringing forward, specific information that will help us be more informed on, our district moving forward.
Yes, absolutely.
Does anybody have anything else? No, committee reports, please.
That's correct. So I know Mr. Shaw gave the athletic committee report. Mr. Shaw, do you have anything else to add on that report? The one thing I remember, I'm looking at the list, it talks about sports passes, and I don't think that was mentioned during your initial report.
Did you hear that, Mr. Shaw?
Maybe Mr. Claypool can speak to that.
Dr. Delosio asked a question about sports passes.
To my understanding, sports passes are $60 per person for all sports. And according to the Athens AD, they will be accepted for soccer, and I would assume other sports as well. Maybe Mr. Claypool knows a better answer than that.
Nope, that's the answer, and we'll get that information out so people can start buying those this week.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
After that mic drop, maybe it's appropriate to say we are gonna look at, relocating, right, where we hold this board meeting so that, communication is really clear and, the audible is easier to hear.
Yeah, we understand that.
With the blower
The blower,
behind you,
we're
it's
going
very
on back there.
This
difficult.
is not a
It's
great
tough.
environment, so we'll find a different answer. Just with that mic drop, I thought
Stay
that-
tuned.
Well, that was just to wake those people up that were sleeping back there. All right. So Buildings and Ground Committee, I know Mr. Hickey's not here, but
With pleasure, I'll take that.
please.
Okay, so our parking lots have been resurfaced. We are waiting for the company to come in and finish painting some lines. Mr. Claypool and Mr. Bunker have been in touch with those companies to finish painting those lines. I know that the high school principal is probably a little bit nervous as the student lot's not finished and we need to number those spaces just yet. The stairwells at Snyder had some work done to them to add for some safety components. We have a cafe that is being built in our old FCS room. So for those of you that attended Sayre High School and you had FCS, there is a cafe being built. Cabinetry countertops have come out. The flooring is out. Painting started today. We are waiting for flooring to come in, and it will be a cafe and open for staff and students to utilize once everything is done. And that is all being paid for with grant money. So that money is not coming out of the business manager's finance budget. It is grant funded fully. We have done RFPs for screens to be added to the high school, stair treads for the safety. It came out of our facility study, so we have an RFP going out for that, and those will be installed soon. And the other RFPs, Mr. Claypool, can you remember what that might be? I have that written down here.
We were gonna look at RFPs in the fall to do some bigger work around air handlers.
Yep.
And some different mechanical things like that.
And asbestos removal.
Asbestos removal.
So those RFPs will go out in the fall for work to be done next summer, for removal of asbestos, for the air handlers that need to be fixed or replaced.
In the asbestos removal, I don't know if Mr. Strange left, but that's just, we have some flooring that's older, that's starting to crack, and we just want to replace that. And then as part of the RFP, as we replace the flooring, we're just going to kind of rehab those rooms and modernize those rooms or those areas, depending on how we figure out where that goes. So,
That's correct.
can I add one piece?
Please do.
This isn't necessarily connected to RFPs or anything, but last week we had a business manager, facilities person in from another district with a meeting, and they happened to walk through our building here, and they were very complimentary about the look of the building. For an older building, they thought it looked really good, so I just wanted to pass that out to our maintenance and custodial team that folks were impressed when they saw the building. So.
Thank you very much, Mr. Claypool. Yeah, I couldn't agree more walking down the hallway to this meeting. It's amazing how well the floors look, and look like we're all ready to go to start the school year, so it's awesome. So, anything else for building and grounds?
No, sir.
All right. So for technology? Yeah, if you'd like to go ahead, Dr. Lowe. Being that I missed the last technology meeting.
Yeah. So Skyward is open for families, and family access is available. If anybody has difficulty with family access, they may reach out to the building administration and or the tech department to gather that access if you've misplaced your password or something needs to be reset. We have done some recycling with e-waste. We've had 2 of those, and they're looking to do a 3rd one as well. Earlier this month, Devaney Heller, who was our new business tech teacher, business ed teacher, she had a computer sale with the FBLA team that went quite well. There are still several desktops left, and she's planning to do another one with the FBLA team, those students, and Mrs. Heller ran that event. So if you didn't get one, they were selling desktop computers at $40, that keyboard, mouse, tower, and the monitor. So if that's something that you're interested in, look for that sale. We'll probably publicize that again on Facebook and keep that out there. We have ordered a lot of new cameras to be added to our system. Some of them are on back order. The ones that did come in over the summer, we have added those around our facilities to decrease the amount of blind spots that might be around. Both at the elementary school and the high school, we have a lot of cameras to keep an eye on things. The accounts for any new student that transferred in have been created and are ready to go. For the UPS section, the uninterrupted batteries through E-rate. We have been able to, it's actually called uninterrupted power supply. They are the new batteries that need to come in, and the gentlemen are installing those. They thought they'd be on back order and not come into the fall, and we were worried about shutting our network down and transitioning them over, but we have received them, and they have a process in order for our tech team to put those in place, so we're excited about that. And that was paid for with some of our E-rate money that we receive. DRC is a data recognition company that we have availability to. All of the computers for students have been updated and ready to go, both the student devices and the library devices for the students to take assessments so that we can track data. The staff deployment of new computers, all new staff members received a new computer within the last 6 months of a laptop, and Mr. Howie has his open right now, and so that deployment has been successful, and everybody has their new computer, unless they're a new staff member and just have not met with technology yet, so there might be a few there. The BenQ boards, the 86-inch interactive board that is a touchscreen board that is behind Mr. Handrick and Dr. Tejan over there. There is one of those in every classroom, and every teacher has the ability to log on to those. What's nice about that is I could log on to the one here in the library, and it will pull up my information, so I don't have to drag my computer and all that information with me. So if a teacher moves from one location to another, their information is accessible as well for them, so that's nice. We had purchased a 10% increase last year when we bought the BenQ boards, and so we've added one to the music classroom. Our new band director had requested one, so we added one to the band room. The high school in room 230, the one here at the library has been established, and in the high school in room 131. And we had those available. We still have 2 more in storage in the event that we need to add those. At the elementary school, in the pods, there's typically 4 rooms in every pod, 1st grade, 2nd grade, and 3rd grade. So in 2nd grade, there are 3 teachers, but there are 4 BenQ boards. So if a teacher wants to do a small group lesson in one of the extra pods, there's a BenQ board there for them to utilize as well. Even though they are on casters on a stand, they will not have to drag them and move them from place to place. The student deployment of computers at our tech meeting on last week were finalized at the elementary school. They are in homerooms and waiting to be distributed by their homeroom teacher. And here at the high school, they were starting the deployment the day after the tech meeting. So I can say with some assurance that they're probably all done as well, but there might be a few rooms left to do. Okay? You're welcome.
So curriculum and instruction?
This must be the day, right, for, this is Ag News out, so I'll do the curriculum instruction at your pleasure, okay? So we talked about the upcoming professional development. Teachers will be back starting on Thursday, Friday, and then the following Monday. So Mrs. Waite, Mrs. Ely, before she transitioned into her new position, we worked diligently through the spring. We had surveys to our staff, find out what they would like to have to develop our professional development schedule. And so we have a lot of things. We are focusing in on early childhood letters training with our K-2 staff. We have some new supplemental materials that are coming that will be, teachers will have the opportunity for professional development of that as well. Mr. Handrick and I will be meeting with groups of teachers to look at PSSA and local data to start form flexible groupings for differentiated instruction. So that's some of a small snapshot of the professional development we have scheduled over the next 3 days. On August 22nd, we have a national speaker coming in, do a motivational speak. We are partnering with Athens. The original plan was to partner with the 3 schools in the Valley, but in my apprehension maybe, or my lack of knowledge with the New York State schools, they start after Labor Day, and Dr. Knowles did not think his staff would come in early, so we're going to try to plan that next year, maybe for September, and have all 3 schools. So on the 22nd, Athens is welcome. They're coming here. The morning of the 22nd, we're going to share in a breakfast together in the gymnasium, and then we'll all be going to the auditorium to hear Brian Mendler speak and give us some motivational conversation before we start our school year. So we're looking forward to sharing that opportunity with Athens, and I was excited that Mr. Sage said, yes, let's do that together. We had started working on that late winter, early, because you need to book those individuals early. So I shared that we have some new supplemental curriculum components coming. Mrs. Waite continues to work with the teams on curricular, and so we have a cycle of curriculum now in place that is an 8-year cycle of curriculum that we will review. We will the next year pilot curriculum and then implement the next year, and then we will monitor that for the next several years and continue to look to make sure that we have curriculum in the hands of our students and the resources for our teachers for the standards that are set by the Pennsylvania Department of Education. We have district assessments set, and that information will go out. We assess our kids, and then we look at that data to build flexible grouping for differentiation. Mrs. Ely spent a great deal of time on the pathways to graduation. If you Google that, or you are interested in the variety of ways that a student can get to graduation, there are multiple pathways. And Vika Spoliansky, who is now Vika Schaefer, got married on Friday, our new high school counselor, she works with every student She starts at probably in their junior year and works through a paper. They all have a document for their pathway for graduation so that they can stay on target. The Sayre High School course offerings, I know that Mrs. Ely has some of that information at her fingertips and is going to go over it, but if I could just share, ACE, which is our dual enrollment, the Sayre Area High School has 9 dual enrollment classes through Corning, and she'll go over what those are when it's her turn to go over that. So we have 9 dual enrollment classes this coming year. NTCC, there are multiple avenues, as Mr. Cole had said, for kids to be a part of that might be headed to a trade school or want to know something else. The SOLA program, which is an online program, we have both students that are full-time for SOLA, and we have students that are hybrid students that do in-person for part of the day, and then they take a course that they want to for graduation purposes or credited purposes. And there's over 560 courses on SOLA that students can select from. And some students select them and work through those courses during their study halls. There are 3 new electives that Mrs. Ely will, 4 new electives. 3, Mrs. Ely, or 4? I apologize. 4. There are 4 new electives here at the high school, and I want to, and it's in my report for later, but I want to say and applaud the parents that have been coming to the parent advisory group that we started back in January, and we meet on a monthly basis and talk about a variety of topics. And so those new electives and things are coming from just that conversation and that solution-minded thought process to bring those forward. The instructional hours, so we mapped out the instructional hours. Here at the high school, we are set for our 178 in-person days. We have 2 Act 80 days that count there. And we are scheduled with 1,161 instructional hours, and the state requires us to have 990. So the Sayre staff, the teachers are putting in more time than is required, and that's okay to do. It gives us more time to differentiate with our student body. At Snyder Elementary School, on their schedule, they have 1,112 hours scheduled, and it's required for 900. So we had a discussion at the curriculum instruction meeting that on Wednesdays, starting on September 14th, and that's on my list to send out a communication after this meeting to families within the next week, but on September 14th, which is a Wednesday, and we're going to revert back to pre-COVID, where on Wednesdays we released early here at the high school, and we're going to add the elementary school at 2:30 so that we can run a faculty meeting. We can have PLC meetings and continue to work together for data grouping. We're not doing the early release early for 2 hours, but we're just doing 1 hour. And over the course of an entire year, that's 24 hours less at the elementary school and 30 hours here at the high school. So we're still far above what the state requires. And then the enrollment numbers, I pulled the enrollment numbers so that I could share that. And I'm sure the principals might do so as well, but I did a little back. So in May, at the elementary school, we had 483 students enrolled K-6, and as of right now, we have 481. And we have 9 folders that have come in over the last 2 days that need to be entered into the system, making it 490 once those are entered into the system. At the high school, we had 473 students, 7th through 12th grade, enrolled in May at the end of last year. And as of today, we had 459 with 5 additional folders sitting on a desk to enter, and that will be 464 students. So we're right around, so I think we are 9 less here at the high school level, and we are 7 more at the elementary. So we're hovering close around that. So that's what I had for curriculum instruction, sir. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. So community relations, Mrs. Kmetz.
Good evening. So at our community relations committee meeting last week, we discussed a couple events we have coming up in the fall. Our first one, not loud enough. Yeah, that's fine. So we're going to have the Fallen Into Fun event this year, again, out at the Satterley Creek Environmental Center. And we are meeting tomorrow to discuss more about that event. Just a couple other things on our radar. We are planning a Thankful at Thanksgiving event here within our school community. And coming up, not until next year, is the 50-year celebration of Snyder Elementary School. So that's something we will also begin working on. And we'll have more communication about some of our fall events that are typical, homecoming, the parade, all that, as we iron out some details with scheduling. So stay tuned, more to come.
Thank you very much.
It's 6 o'clock tomorrow at Riverfront Park at the Pavilion. Riverfront Park.
Yes, I got it. Thanks. I appreciate that. I drove around all last year every day looking for it except Riverfront Park. So that's
All right, thank you very much, Mrs. Metz. So, reports, Mrs. Morel.
So as everyone else presented there, we ask you to go to the mic so that everyone can hear you. Thank you so much, Mrs. Morel.
fine. Yes, I'd love to do that. I'm usually pretty good at projecting.
So as everyone went through their community reports, I had lots to check off, so my report is going to end up being very short. So I'd like to thank the custodial team, my secretaries, all the teachers, everyone that's come in over the last couple weeks getting ready for school. It's almost like the excitement of holidays when I walk around the rooms and see the new plexiglass and the trees that have come down. The building's been cleaned both inside and out. So thank you to everybody for their hard work. It certainly has paid off. Again, we'd like to welcome all our new teachers. We're very excited to have you be part of our team. The other thing I'd like to announce is open house is this Thursday from 5:30 to 7:30, so we look forward to seeing everyone on those days. Students, please make sure you stop and see Mrs. Edgerton at the bus circle on your way in, or me, and you make sure you give us our good morning hello. So that's all I have, so thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Morel.
You're welcome.
Miss Ely, Mrs. Ely.
Okay, so I think it was mentioned before, all of the open teaching positions that we have at both buildings have been filled, so that's very exciting. We do have our 7th grade and new student orientation coming up next Monday at 5:45, immediately followed by an open house from 6:30 to 7:30. So anyone can come out, new students or 7th grade students, we really recommend you come out for that orientation, and then any other student that wants to come out from 6:30 to 7:30 with families to see your room, meet your teachers, will be there. I do want to clarify a little bit about 7th and 8th grade. So the schedules have come out, and I know there was maybe for some parents confusion. So you may notice on your children's schedules they have 2 class periods of ELA and math. So that's considered, it's called a soft block schedule. What that means is they have an opportunity for more content area instruction in those 2 classes and more time for practice. But we reduce that fatigue factor because sometimes it's hard to sustain your attention and focus for a full 80 minutes in a row. So we break it up into 2 smaller sections throughout the day. 7th and 8th graders also have activity period on their schedule. This is 28 minutes directly after their lunch for students basically to decompress, connect with one another, have a bit of a recess time because it's hard sometimes to make that transition going from 6th over to 7th grade and not having recess, not having that block of time. Students can select what they want to participate in during that time. They'll have an opportunity to be in the gym, the bowl outside, pending nice weather, or in individual classrooms. Examples of things that they'll be doing are walking outside, doing a sport in the gym, board games in a classroom, those types of activities. So that's their activity period during the day. WIN, which stands for What I Need, is continuing this year for 7th and 8th graders. That's the chunk of time at the end of their day in their schedule. And they will attend during that WIN time chorus or band, or they will be in small group instruction for reading or math. They could possibly have both. Or they'll be participating in project-based learning activities, STEM activities with teachers. So those are kind of like the 3 major things that will be going on during WIN. As far as 9th through 12th graders, like Dr. Delosio said, we have some new course offerings this year. So we have a brand new course called Foundations of Technology and Engineering. Physics has made a re-entry into our schedule. We have a combo class, which is Professionalism in the Workplace and Community Service. Mr. Strickland I think had asked specifically about community service. So this is a brand new class developed this year where students will have the opportunity to head over to Snyder. Different areas at Guthrie are welcoming them in to basically job shadow and get real life experiences in different job fields. And then we have Spanish 1 that has come back to our schedule, and there's actually 3 sections of it that Mr. Guarino is teaching this year. I also wanted to just note, if you have a student who took Wood Tech 1 last year and they only received that half credit, they were offered by the school counselor to take it again this year for a full credit. Some opted out, they moved on to Wood 2, but there were several students that took advantage of that. As far as the dual enrollment classes we have this year, they are English 12 AP, pre-calculus, calculus, statistics, Chemistry 2 honors, the workplace professionalism / community service that I already mentioned, Phi-X, which is just freshman year experience, which any student that's going into post-secondary education, that's a requirement of their freshman year, so it's nice to get it out of the way in high school. ACE Art Essentials, and Wellness. So those are all of the dual enrollment classes we have going this year. The other thing, I failed to mention, that for the 7th and 8th graders, if you notice on your child's schedule, they have they've always had a rotation period during the day. So for 7th graders, they have phys ed, health, STEM, and career exploration. They'll have 45 days at a time. So one full marking period of one class, and then they'll move on to the next. For 8th grade, it looks very similar. It's phys ed, health, Wood Tech 1, and financial literacy. Those are their 45-day rotations. I do want to give a huge thank you to Vika, now Schaefer, our school counselor. She has worked really, really hard this summer. You know, she's fairly new to this district as well, so she's learning a lot, but she has been so adaptable. She has been, you know, doing everything in her power to make schedules fit. I know she's getting some calls in now from parents to tweak schedules, so thank you to her. She's worked really, really hard all throughout the summer. The last thing I want to say, which I'm surprised Mr. Claypool didn't bring it up, so I thought I would bring it up. We will be offering bocce this year at Sarah High School. It's a combined effort of Special Olympics and PIAA. It will happen in the winter, so be on the lookout for more information about that. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Ely. Mr. Howard.
Good evening, I'm Jim Howe, I'm the assistant high school principal. Throughout this whole summer, we've been, as you can obviously hear, very busy getting everything in order. A few topics that I got to work on, bringing a renewed focus in on topics such as cell phones and associated technologies. Every student at Sarah area school district has been issued a device for their educational access. As such, personal cell phones are not welcome in the classroom. When I say associated technologies, I mean earbuds, smartwatches, stuff like that. Last year, cell phones and associated technologies were responsible for issues such as academic cheating, social media-based issues, photos without permissions and in restricted areas, and a few blatant phone calls during the class period themselves, both incoming and outgoing. For the 22-23 school year, when a student is referred for cell phone or associated technologies incident, it will result in a loss of electronics for a school day. That means the student would surrender their phone to the main office for the duration of the school day. They can have it back at the end of the school day so they can safely transport back and forth to school. Discipline. As if you've read any news articles, there's a marked increase in discipline referrals and behaviors that are not unique to Sayre, the Valley, or even just the state of Pennsylvania. They're nationwide. In our effort to address the increase and change the trajectory of our discipline rate, we're refocusing our efforts to address and solve issues at the lowest level with the least amount of lag time between incident and the incident being addressed. I encourage any student, parent, guardian, faculty, staff, community member to reach out to the most immediate level that may be able to address the incident. if your child comes home in the evening and says, this happened in class today, I would encourage you to call that classroom teacher. They may or may not be aware. Hopefully you can get it solved. If not, then it continues up the chain of command or up the chain of authority, as you will, in the school district. When we solve those problems at the most immediate level, I'm sorry, it's killing me with the feedback. Can you hear me okay if I step back like this? All right. So when you solve that problem at the most immediate level, you start to build a relationship because you've, Sorry, let me try again. You start to build a relationship in that immediate section of parent to teacher because you work through a problem and you kind of start to learn how everybody works. And that's why I encourage you at the most immediate level, okay? Within the discipline, in conjunction with that discipline, we're also starting this year with Suite 360. All right, Suite 360 is an online platform that allows me to hand select a short lesson, quiz, assignment that relates directly to whatever that infraction was. So for example, if a student is caught with a vape on school grounds, they would get the immediate progressive discipline, first time being 2 Saturdays, I believe, if I remember off the top of my head, after a couple months off from flowing through that. But they would also get a course assigned to them through Suite 360, which they can access anywhere they can access the internet. That, for example, one of those courses is called Vaping. Are the consequences worth it? So we bring their technology to help kind of change their mindset and not just say, okay, well, you got 30 minutes of silence in that room, and that's going to fix everything, so say it. Now we're actually going to try to add this Suite 360 stuff to educate them and hopefully cut down on that repeat offenses. You'll also hear about Suite 360 being used through our guidance office because there is just a landslide of information and courses available that Mrs. Schaefer may be able to use towards career counseling or mental health or positive thought process. So when you hear Suite 360, it does not necessarily mean that they got in trouble. It just means that there's something that either the guidance or myself or Mrs. Ely, just about anyone can say, hey, I think you would benefit from this abbreviated little course. That's been the predominance, trying to get ready for that and get ready to present all that and get the teachers not on board, but up to speed with what I've been working with also. And that's it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Howie. Student Services, Dr. Teacher.
Sorry, the mic's off.
Yeah, you're gonna test me here. Top right button. There you go.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. So I have a grants update for you tonight and not a student services update. So I have been working on 2 grants through the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency. So the funding amounts are that were allocated for SARE are $115,000 for school safety and $115,000 for mental health. So I'm working through those grant guidelines and criteria in order to apply for that funding. And then just a quick reminder for 21st Century, the after-school program that will begin again on Tuesday, September 6th at Snyder Elementary. And again, interested families, please contact Christy Zimmer in the business office. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Teacher. Curriculum Communications, Mrs. White. Mrs. Waite.
I'm gonna take my chances from right here and use my teacher voice. I don't like the sound of that microphone. I don't have much because per the direction of Mr. Claypool, I'm not allowed to spend anything more on curriculum until budget season. So it's been more focused on, we had a school of new teachers put in, push through the school year was try to find a way to make things consistent across grade levels and making sure that every teacher had everything they needed the second they walked in the door. With a few surprise hires tonight, and very recently, that's been a little challenging, but with the help of our current teachers, just reaching out to them, our mentor teachers, their colleagues,
I'll fight you, it's fine.
Okay, yeah, Michelle, give me the final, very nice.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wade. Mr. Andrews.
Thank you. We worked hard with Guthrie last week to finalize an affiliation agreement that's going to allow our students to go onto their campuses. You'll have that at your next board meeting. We finished that late in the week last week. Continuing to work with Keystone College about expanding our dual enrollment classes. I'm excited that they've identified between 15 and 17 courses from our course guides that might be possible dual enrollment options. I'm continuing to collect information as the teachers come back to give to the college about whether they would qualify or not. Two of the courses are already dual enrollment through CCC, but others are not. One drawback would be that the kids would have to pay for these credits because they would not be free if they are through CCC. But we still want to try to increase those opportunities for our kids. And Mrs. Waite was, she's kind of ducking some credit here. We had a very successful 3-day new teacher induction last week that she organized, and the admin team kind of all rotated through and helped. It was very nice to meet all of our new staff, and we really hope that the 3 days we spent with them makes those teachers' school year a little smoother at the beginning.
Thank you very much, Mr. Andrews. NTCC, Mr. Cole.
And boy, am I gonna be short. Hey, our next meeting is going to be at 5:30 this Thursday, August the 18th, and that's going to be followed by the nursing program's graduation at 7 o'clock on the high school auditorium. And a quick rundown on the safety procedures that we were given back in June at the Career Center. One of the things that they are working at is when they do have their drills, is that they're hoping to set up with the Pennsylvania State Police down there at their barracks in the future. They're right now meeting down at the Starlight Bowling Alley, which is a little bit further down the road, so hopefully they'll get something settled in there here in the next year or two. The Safe to Say something, believe it or not, there were no reports, and I don't want to jinx them, but for 3 years running, they haven't had one report that has come in from the Safe to Say. And yeah, that's it from Northern Tier Career Center. I told you it was going to be short.
All right, how about for PSBA?
Anyway, yes, PSBA, if you haven't done your new school director or advanced school director course, they're going to be having a virtual training coming up on September the 17th. Check out the mypsba.com or go into their website. We'll have more information on that. Election of officers, will be electing a president-elect, a vice president, and a central zone representative coming up. The president-elect is Michael Gossard, Allison Mathis, the vice president, and Julie Preston, and she's from the Northern Tioga School District, for a central zone representative, and also 2 PSBA insurance trustees. And I got a chance to interview all these people, along with a couple of our other colleagues, and they are very fine people. And I want to also make mention that the Pennsylvania School Board Association is now operating with a consortium of State School Boards Association, which is, we left the National School Board Association, and 25 different states, including Pennsylvania, are the ones that are involved with this particular association. I guess that's what I can say. And don't forget the PSBA conference, October 31st through November 1st. You can attend both days or one day, and I think they are also having it done virtually as well. All right, thank you, Mr. Caprini.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cole. Do you have anything from last or Saturday?
So Mrs. Agnew shared with me today that she has a Blast IU meeting this week. She's absent from, I will say that this is her first absence from a meeting in 19 years that she has served the board, so she was disappointed to have to miss, but she was called well she planned something months ago to attend something tonight. So, in Saturday Creek, it's being utilized quite well through the summer, and the cross-country team, Mr. Felt was up there to start practice, I think, the 15th, today was the first, and so he went up and went through the trails and said that they were all ready to roll, and very, very happy about that. So whoever did all that prep work, he was most appreciative as a coach.
Thank you very much. So for me, I'd just like to recap. I know there was a lot of information given tonight at this board meeting. I would hope that parents, faculty, and staff, community would take the time to digest it all. If you have questions, reach out to the board. Our emails are on the website. Reach out with your questions so we can get them answered for you. Understand that this board, this administration, this faculty, we're committed to give your children the best education, the best experience possible here at Sayre. That I know for sure. When you see things out on Facebook, and you will, I just like to quote an anonymous guy from Facebook. Communication is one thing, but your tone while you're communicating with someone is everything. So just keep that in mind. That's all I have.
Okay. So I'm going to second that information about Facebook and the importance of having facts so that we can make informed decisions based on the data that we have in front of us. And so when you receive information, you need to receive it in a timely manner. Not that I want to belabor the sports conversation that we have had about the football situation, but I was unaware of the numbers and where they might have been. We had met the minimum numbers as Mr. Claypool had shared. So, having information ahead of time and delivering it to us to make good decisions ahead of time for our students is our goal at all times. The 11th hour is not something that we ever want to do, and I'm not looking to do that in the future at any given time. So if information is out there and it needs to be shared, reach out. I had a mom call today about the basketball numbers and concerned about some students. I looked up that information for her and got right back to her. So if there are questions that are out there and information you need to have and the evidence I can pull from our data banks that we have, I'm always willing to share that information. We certainly met with the Athens team back on March 30th. There was a team of us that met with them to discuss the co-op of the co-op of cross country and soccer for the fall, and made that final decision around that June mark. And we had set then for our winter sports to be today of August 15th, knowing that the meeting was tonight, and if there was a decision made, I would reach with a formal request tonight before I would leave this building, if that was to occur, and then we have it set for the spring sports of November 15th. We as a administration and board and chair committees met with the Athens, the same group, and so we had put those decisions in place, and I want to move forward with those deadlines so we are not caught at the end. Earlier in this school year, and probably in January and February, we had parents bring a variety of concerns forward. My response to those concerns was to develop a parent advisory that was open to every parent in the Sayre Area School District. We have had a group of dedicated parents come to those meetings on a monthly basis. It's an open dialogue. We sit in a circle and we share information. They share information with me, I share information with them, and a lot of decisions and or things that are currently happening in our school district are from those conversations. So we meet, it's on the calendar, it's a parent advisory meeting, and I would even say that if you are a community member and not a parent of a student, you're welcome to come to that meeting, even though it says parent advisory. So as I look out, if you are a parent of a former Sayre student and you want to share your input, please come to those meetings. I would certainly accept those and welcome you to the table. It's an informational sharing where they share concerns, but they also share ideas and solutions to problems, or they are, forward thinking with those solutions, and we do that together. We have ideas that are happening. Spanish is back. That was a big draw. They really wanted to have Spanish back on the books here, and so that's happening. And as Mrs. Ely said, we have 3 classes of Spanish for this upcoming school year. We've added new technology classroom with the foundations in engineering. We're excited about that and wanting to have that happen here at Sayre. We have the pipeline program at Guthrie that's occurring that we've worked with Corey Bellis and her team over the course of the last 4 months to get that to happen. So there are a lot of opportunities that are different here at Sayre that haven't happened before, and that's a direct correlation to the conversations that have been brought forward, the ideas that have been shared, and we're working through those components. I do want to just go back, and I don't want to say that it's a history lesson, but it's a lesson learned that I have had over the course of the last 3 years that I have been the Sayre superintendent, and I have enjoyed being the Sayre superintendent. But when I got here, the board and many community members, the board members that were on the board when I arrived, and community members, I had a lot of meetings, shared the facts and the history about the Sayre Area School District. And so when I say some of this information about the history and the past of what has occurred here, it is not to be derogatory or anything along those lines. But I want to give the facts so that the community and the board, we can recall that all together. So when I got here and talked about the curriculum that the students utilize at the elementary school, the reading program was old. It was ancient. It was still in a basal series. That has moved on from decades ago to guided reading, a balanced literacy program, and those components. The social studies books that were in the hands of our students were going on 4 decades. 4 decades. The technology, we were at a 1 to 4 student devices. For every 4 students, we had 1 device available. This is in my first couple months that I had gathered this information. Mr. Claypool sat down with me and talked about the finances of the district, where they were when he arrived just 1 year and 4 months before I arrived. And he's done a fantastic job of turning that around and having a fund balance now available. The facilities, yes, they look beautiful. When you walk down the hallways, the floors are shining. We're ready to welcome our kids back. But we had a facilities study in my 3rd year that shows some of the infrastructure that needs fixed. Since I've been here, some of the conversations have occurred of what has been done, in addition to all of our roofs are done. Roofs have to be done first so that the leaks stop, so that we can do some of the insides of the building. So for me, when I heard all of that information, you know, the old phrase, Rome wasn't built in a day, but there has been a lot of work done by the administration and the teaching team dedicated beyond the workday. They come in, they do all the work they do with kids all day long, but some of the dedicated time beyond that to prepare. We had think tanks, we had Topic Tuesdays, we had all these meetings for people to gather. And so I couldn't be more proud to say, without going in debt or having to take a loan, Mr. Claypool, you know, he said to me, well, what's the vision? Where do we need to go? For me, it was student resources first, books in students' hands. So we spent $100,000 on a K-8 reading program to make sure that the teachers had the resources they needed and the students had the books that they could put in their hands. We spent money on professional development. We brought outside individuals in so that they could have that available. We then tackled the K-6 social studies curriculum. That takes money, and we did that. And that was without adding to the debt of this school district. Keep in mind that all of that happened 9 months after I got here, a worldwide pandemic hit, and we kept forging forward for what we needed to do differently. The technology, we now have a device in every student's hand, K to 12. K and 1 have touch screens to use, 2 through 6 Chromebooks, 7 through 12 laptops. Some of those devices still are aging, but we have a technology refresh program so that every time it comes around, that happens. So there has been a lot of work done here in the Sayre Area School District. And so yes, the facilities are next on the list, but for me, it was the teacher resources. It was the student resources that needed to happen first. The BenQ boards that were added, that was a huge amount of money that came. So we took our ESSERS funds and looked at what do teachers need to have in their rooms. Teachers were still working, and I will say this, right? Teachers were still working on desktops. And I will tell you, when I got here to Sayre in 2019, and I walked into my office and saw the desktop, I think I was in Barry's office 30 seconds later and said, I can't carry that home every night because I work from home as much as I work here. I take it with me. He said, all right, we'll order you a laptop. But it's just, and I thought for teachers too, when I was a teacher in the classroom, I had a device that I could take wherever I was so that I could work from wherever I was to prepare for my student lessons. So when we think about where we were and where we are today, I am more than proud of all of the changes that have occurred in this school district. And I know that the light was shined on the last minute football conversation that happened here in early August, and it overshadows a lot of those other components. It is important to have extracurricular activities because we know that students that participate in sports with dedicated coaches, the band with dedicated band directors, do well with their academics, all right? So I don't want that to be overshadowed with all the work that has been done by the team. The teachers have given an exorbitant amount of time, and I'm probably missing something along the lines. We've added electives. We have 9 dual enrollment classes. We have a couple things in a pipeline ready to come out, and we have a plan to add additional dual enrollment classes. But again, Rome wasn't built in a day, and we are working on those processes, and I will not stop as long as I'm sitting here as the superintendent of Sayre. I will dedicate my time, however much time that means, and that's because I have somebody at home that allows me to do my job and not worry about the time that I do. I will also say the onboarding of teachers is something new here at Sayre Area School District. We've spent 3 days with our 12 new staff members, going over policies and procedures and all the ins and outs of all the technology components we have. And I will praise Mrs. Waite too for having 3 days of organized, direct instruction to our new teachers so that they can feel comfortable and welcomed into the school district. That's a new process that we did not have before. All of those teachers also have dedicated mentors that will be supporting them throughout the year, and Mrs. Waite and I will be meeting with them once a month for an hour to check in on them, to find out what they need to move forward and be successful, because I told them the #1 goal at the end of the year that I want them to know is that they were supported or felt supported, and that they have answers to questions and or they know where to find those as new teachers in our district. So I just wanted to share that information. I feel like there was one more thing, but I'm losing it. Did we announce open house? Did we announce open houses August 18th and the 22nd? All right. Thank you for letting me have that time.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So, anything else from the board?
So Mr. Brown has been waiting, and I think he was to speak at public, so I know this is at the end, but Mr. Brown is working with Guthrie for the revitalization project, and he wanted to address the board, and Tammy did put his name at the front, so that typically is where he would be at the front of the board. So Mr. Brown would like to speak to the board.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Thank you for patiently waiting.
It's not a problem at all. Thank you for having me. I am here representing Sayre Revitalization Initiative. This is a group that has come together with members of the community, the business community, the local employers, as well as Guthrie, to make Sayre the regional hub for education, wellness, recreation, and hospitality. To do this, we have to have a lot of tools in our arsenal to do it. What I'm here to discuss with you is something called ALERTA, which is a local economic revitalization tax abatement. What this does is this encourages individuals to invest in properties in the downtown without a tax consequence to the school district or the borough or the county. What this allows them to do is to make improvements to existing structures and not pay additional tax on the improved values. So the school district does not lose any revenue. It continues receiving the revenue as it is as of the first day of the purchase. But the improvements are taxed at a later time. Earlier tonight, the borough of Sayre has already had this on the books since 2014. They had it set up for a 5-year tax abatement. So basically, if I purchased a property for $100,000 and I made $50,000 worth of improvements, I was not taxed on that $50,000 portion of it until the end of that 5 years. The school district continued to receive the tax revenue on the $100,000. Earlier today, the Sayre board moved that to 10 years. So they've actually gone to a 10-year extension. What we have found here, a lot of what was discussed tonight, and a lot of this is addressing the lower enrollments and the lower population of people living in the downtown. Through our studies, we have found 4,500 people come into the Sayre area every single day for employment. Only 3,000 of them actually work at Guthrie. So there's a large portion of the community that lives outside the area and comes here to work. If we can capture just a fraction of that, that will allow us to move tax revenues, that will allow us to move per capita income tax, those types of things that will meaningfully put money in the hand of the school district to enhance its curriculum in a more meaningful way. What we would propose that the school district consider doing this as in the Sayre Business District itself. We're not looking at the Elm Street District at this particular point in time. We are looking at the Sayre downtown. The first and foremost priority of this is housing. We have a lot of retail businesses in the downtown that have second and third floors that are currently unutilized. And the reason why they're unutilized is because it's very cost prohibitive for them to improve those areas. So if this tax abatement is one tool that actually helps that, in addition to the other resources that SRI is working on bringing to the table, this will help encourage the investment in our downtown and ultimately increase the potential tax revenues for not only the school district, but the borough and the county moving forward, as well as bringing additional people and resources to the Sayre area.
So the borough's already, excuse me, the borough's already accepted a 10-year abatement. What is the county?
The county will follow with the two other taxing authorities. The county waits until the school district and the borough. The borough took the 5-year and extended it to 10 years tonight, and that's what we're asking for the school district to consider as well. 10-year.
Mr. Brown and I met a couple months ago and talked through it. It made a lot of sense in my head if you could send me the 10-year version. I had one or, don't even have to send it. We had one or two things that we were kind of talking through that we need to finalize before I get back to these guys, but, I mean, the reality of it is there hasn't been a reassessment in many, many years, and it's not necessarily super likely that there will be one coming up anytime real soon, so, you know, the ability to help out downtown and improve that tax base and improve housing down there and stuff seems like a win-win, but we'll take a look at that one more time. Get back.
Very good. If any other follow-up?
Yeah.
I didn't hear you, Don.
Next meeting, I would
Next
say.
meeting. Excellent. And if you would like a workshop or something in between there to hammer out the details, I'll be more than happy to facilitate.
All right. Sounds good.
Excellent. Thank you guys for having us.
Thanks.
What's the school's current local tax revenues besides property tax? Like, is there a income tax or per capita tax, something that's school-based?
It's all real estate tax.
Any other questions? Any motion to adjourn? Motion and a second? Motion second, all in favor? Aye. We're adjourned. Thank you very much, folks. Have a good night.